Willem Holleeder has really done it all. The Amsterdam gangster has a lengthy criminal record that includes a high-profile kidnapping, extortion, and at least 25 murders. Holleeder had a normal beginning. He was born in 1958 in the Amsterdam neighborhood of Jordaan, but despite that, he rose through the ranks to become crime boss and ended up with a string of criminal charges that have left him in prison for life after being incriminated by his own sisters. Today on the Wanted Fugitive channel, we'll look at the story of a ruthless Dutch criminal and why he ended up in prison for life. But before we start, make sure you like this video, and if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to our channel. The start of his criminal career. So, Willem began a career in crime in the 70s by forming a gang with his friends Jan Boulard, Frans Meyer, and Cor van Hout. Now, this gang was part of vigilante groups that attacked squatters on behalf of homeowners and developers. Turns out, Willem's gang even committed a spectacular speedboat-assisted armed robbery of a money order office in Amsterdam, and they weren't caught. But that's not his most famous charge. That honor falls to the 1983 kidnapping of Freddy Heineken, the CEO of Heineken and one of the richest men in the Netherlands. Kidnapping of the beer boss. We'll need to travel back in time for this one. Let's go back to Tuesday evening, November the 9th, 1983. At 7:02, Alfred Freddy Heineken closes the door of his office in Amsterdam behind him. Then, all of a sudden, a group of 4 armed men appear out of nowhere. They overpower Heineken, blindfold him, and throw him into a van. Heineken's driver, Ab Dordera, rushes to help his boss, but he's also grabbed and thrown into the van. The van then rode to a warehouse in the Amsterdam industrial area. There, Heineken and Dordera got locked in 2 small cold cells. For 3 weeks, the two faced a nightmare in real life. They were chained to a wall like animals, while the kidnappers demanded a ransom of 35 million Dutch guilders. That's around 15.8 million euro today for the release of the 2 men. And this wasn't a random attack. The criminals had actually planned the kidnapping almost 2 years in advance, building a fake wall in a long galvanized steel working shed to hold their prisoners. Even the ransom was planned. The kidnappers demanded 35 million guilders in the form of 200,000 banknotes in 4 currencies with a total weight of 400 kilograms. This was to be divided into 5 bags. The amount demanded was chosen in such a way that the amount was manageable, without requiring large figures that could be difficult to exchange, like the banknotes of 1,000 guilders. And then there was the ingenious way of contacting the police. They did so through advertisements in the newspaper, cassette tapes, and even through pseudonyms. Throughout this, Heineken and Dordera were kept chained to the wall in the shed. So 2 weeks after the kidnapping, Heineken's family finally met their demands and handed over the ransom, against the advice of the police. At the time, it was the highest ransom ever paid for a victim. A police officer handed over the bagged fortune at an overpass after the man had been directed to the unloading point through all kinds of notes hidden along the road. Here's where the police really struggled. They tried to keep an eye on the police officer with a helicopter, but things didn't go according to plan. Around the time of the random transfer, the camera in the helicopter failed. Talk about bad luck. Later, a hiker in the woods saw banknotes on the ground, which is how the police ended up finding 20 million guilders buried in large barrels in the wood near Zeist. Still, some million guilders from the ransom have never been traced. So the kidnappers had noticed that they were being followed and knew they could be arrested by the police at any moment. They knew they couldn't return to the secret shed to release Freddy Heineken and his driver. So they counted their losses and ran. They grabbed part of the ransom and left, without releasing Heineken and his driver from the secret shed. But thanks to an anonymous tip, a police officer was able to come and rescue the men on November the 30th. The gang was on the run. Holleeder and Van Hout hit the road and made their way to Paris, but just 3 months later they were arrested by the French police. They fought extradition to the Netherlands for almost 3 years, but were finally returned in October 1986. So in 1983, Holleeder was sentenced to 11 years in prison. But this didn't change him into a better man. Far from it, actually. The crime boss's dramatic return. Well, remember how several million guilders were never found? It's believed that Holleeder and Cor van Hout, who was now Holleeder's brother-in-law, had invested part of the money in the red light district in Amsterdam and Alkmaar. Cor van Hout. The man had a pretty happening life. On March 27, 1996, at the age of 38, he survived an attack in Amsterdam. He allegedly robbed the Delta organization, and Willem stated that Sam Klepper and John Meermet planned this attack. And then, in 1997, a new plan to kill him was discovered and foiled by the police. On a fateful night in 2000, yet another attack was planned against Van Hout. He was shot several times, but miraculously went uninjured. John Meermet was arrested, who clearly wanted to avenge the murder of his friend Sam Klepper, but had to be released due to lack of evidence. On January 24, 2003, Van Hout was finally assassinated in Amstelveen. Willem Enstra. Cor Van Hout's death had major implications on Willem Holleeder's life. He got into business with real estate mogul Willem Enstra, who was even called the banker of the underworld. After all, Enstra was the man to launder large amounts of criminal money. But when Van Hout was killed in 2003, their relationship seriously deteriorated. This is where it gets absolutely brutal. Enstra reportedly secretly testified against Holleeder to the police, linking him with around 25 murders, including Cor Van Hout's. But in yet another murder, Enstra was shot dead in broad daylight near his office in 2004. As you might have expected, Holleeder and his then partners in crime are believed to have ordered the hit. Now here's where it gets even messier. Meet Hedier K, a Turkish Amsterdam criminal in witness protection, who was a member of a group that carried out several murders. One of these murders was that of Willem Enstra's. According to Hedier, the gunmen and their accomplices were paid $200,000 for the murder. He claimed that Willem Holleeder, Dino Sorel, and Stanley Hillis were the ones who ordered the hit. But Stanley Hillis couldn't be convicted of the murder. Why? Well, around noon on 21st of February 2011, Hillis was shot 37 times with an automatic weapon in his car in the Vizouwstraat in Amsterdam. He died on the spot. Then there's Dino Sorel, who was sentenced to life in prison in 2017 by the Court of Appeal for the murders of Kees Houtman and Thomas van der Bijl in 2005 and 2006. John Meermet. Remember how we talked about John Meermet and how he planned a hit on Cor Van Hout? Well, the reason the organized crime boss was killed was because he wanted his millions back after investing with Willem Enstra. So Enstra hired Willem Holleeder as the money's protector and refused to return the invested money. The simplest way to get rid of Meermet was, of course, to murder him. Kees Houtman. On exactly the same day of the year as John Meermet, Kees Houtman was also murdered. The Amsterdam hash smuggler had been extorted by Holleeder after he refused to invest in a real estate deal with him. Houtman transferred €1 million to Holleeder, but the gangster still wanted more, much more. While Houtman could have gone to the police, he was afraid of being assassinated and had his home tightly secured. On his birthday, November 2, 2005, he was shot dead in his own doorway. Thomas van der Bijl. So he was a bar owner in Amsterdam and a childhood friend of Cor Van Hout. He was actually Van Hout and Holleeder's driver until the two ended their friendship. Van der Bijl is said to be in secret talks with police about how he was extorted, threatened and mistreated by Holleeder. He eventually got arrested for allegedly being involved in drug trafficking, but was soon released, which Holleeder considered suspicious. Less than a month later, on April 20th, 2006, he was murdered in his Café de Halan. Van der Bijl even talked about Holleeder and told how the man doesn't do any of his murders himself. He told the police that Willem was evil, that he sucked the life out of people like a vampire. He even told them how Willem has €100 million. According to Astrid, Willem's sister, her brother told her that Thomas van der Bijl spoke to the police. Once again, Holleeder was put on trial in 2006, and at the trial, lawyer Bram Zegers testified that Holleeder had extorted millions of euros from Enstra, but just 1 week after the testimony, a drug overdose left Zegers dead. During the trial, another body was added to the count, that of a Yugoslavian drug dealer. It seems like death followed Holleeder like a bad stench. After being found guilty of extortion, he was sentenced to 9 years in prison, of which he served only 6. Going from a criminal to a celebrity. Well, the man served his time, and despite protests from politicians who didn't want Holleeder to become glorified, that's exactly what happened. Holleeder jumped headfirst into the media. He first appeared on College Tour, a TV show that uses an audience of a few hundred people to interview high-profile guests. Then, Holleeder collaborated with the Dutch rapper Large France to release a record titled Willem is terug, Willem is back. And if that wasn't enough, Holleeder actually began to publish a weekly column for the Dutch magazine Nuwe Revue. The crime boss wrote about his daily life, experiences, and things he found interesting, but he never saw the money as the Justice Department confiscated it immediately. Betrayed by his own sisters. As Holleeder rose after his stint in prison, police kept a close eye on him. Thank the Lord. He became suspected of the extortion of Theo Huysman, an ex-high-ranking member of Hells Angels Holland's Amsterdam chapter. On May 2013, a huge police sting with 450 police and army personnel was successful in nabbing Holleeder, but a trial against him was once again unsuccessful. But they did put him in jail just 2 years later. Here he was visited by his sister, Astrid, who was scared that Holleeder would have her killed. For good reason too. The man has had everyone around him killed. To help bring him down, she worked with the police by secretly recording his confession on a visit. Holleeder's other sister, Sonia, who had been married to Van Hout, also gave evidence against her brother. Astrid's fears were well founded, that's for sure. Holleeder was eventually charged with ordering attacks on Astrid, Sonia and Peter R. de Vries, a well-known journalist who testified against him in his trial. He allegedly asked the help of 2 members of the Curacao gang, one of whom informed authorities about the hit. But then the gang member took back his confession, potentially under pressure from Holleeder. His life in prison. What has Holleeder been convicted of? At the ripe old age of 61, the Amsterdam gangster was ordered in 2019 to serve life in prison. He was convicted by the Amsterdam court for co-perpetrating 6 homicides, 2 attempts, and a participation in a criminal organization. This included the attempted murder of John Meermet on February 26, 2002, the murder of Cor van Hout on January 24, 2003, the murder of Robert ter Haak on January 24, 2003, and the murder of Willem Enstra on May 17, 2004. But that's not even half of his charges. He was also charged with the attempted murder of Enstra's business partner, David Denneboom, on May 17, 2004, the murder of John Meermet on November 2, 2005, the murder of Kees Houtman on November 2, 2005, and the murder of Thomas van der Bijl on April 20, 2006. And it goes without saying, he was charged with participation in a criminal organization. That's all for this video. Whose profile would you like us to cover next? Let us know in the comments down below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more criminal profiles. Thanks for watching and stay safe.